What is going on, guys? I want to come back with another educational video. Today I'm going to teach you how to write an upper-lower program. So an upper body, lower body split. That means you have 2 days a week where you're lower, 2 days a week where you're upper, 4 days a week in the gym. It's a very popular split, and it's actually a training split that I use with the majority of my clients. It serves well for powerlifting, for bodybuilding, for gen pop, for people who just want to feel good. It serves well for fat loss versus hypertrophy. It's a pretty universal system and split, and it's an easy one to program for people, and it gives you a chance to really get creative and use some of the legendary concepts like conjugate method, which I'm going to talk about today, in order to build your own version of this. So I'm going to teach you the way I do it, one of the ways I do it, because inside the tailored training you'll see there's 8 different upper-lower splits, all using different styles and methods. So there's many ways to do this, but use this video as just another tool in your tool belt to do it yourself, to create your own style. Or if you need help, obviously, reach out to me personally, DM me, and I will help you further. But first and foremost, we have to talk about the daily format. So what do we need to do on a daily basis no matter what? And this is besides the fact of periodization, besides the fact of max effort and dynamic effort for lower body, upper body, this is essentially what you should be doing in every single program, whether it's full body, upper, lower, push-pull legs, really any training split that you're doing. Every day in your session, you want to follow these principles. After you've done a warm-up, everybody should be warming up. You don't want to just jump into the gym and start training, obviously, because that's going to lead to injury. But first, we're going to go through an activation phase. This is going to be something like you'll see here with the face pull or the plyo push-ups or the leg curl and the side plank. Those are activation phases. So this is actually inside of the program. It's after the warm-up. And what you're trying to do here is move your joints through a full range of motion and activate the right muscles to help you perform a movement of that day. So for example, a leg curl and a side plank are two muscular contractions that are going to be somewhat difficult and fire up the right muscles in order to help you squat better. It's going to literally help you get into a deeper squat, a more comfortable squat, and it's going to feel better as you load up that squat. So that is an activation phase. For upper body day, it might be face pulls. You can do more core work. You can do anything to open up your shoulder girdle. But no matter what, we're doing some activation, so we are getting a pump in certain muscle groups before we move forward. After that, we're going to go through a priming phase. So even if you're not interested in powerlifting and you don't care about speed development because you're not on a sports team or anything like that, you should still be doing something explosive, because as we age, the thing that declines more than most things is our central nervous system, our ability to react. It's why as people age and when they get older and the elderly, one of the most common ways of dying is actually falling and breaking your hip. Well, one of the reasons why they're unable to react and stop themselves is because their central nervous system is slowing down, so their reaction time slows down. So if we want to have better longevity, we want to be safer in the gym and in day-to-day life, and we want to be able to recruit more muscle fibers and motor units to perform the compound lifts that we are going to see in a sec, we want to do a priming phase right after the activation. And this is going to be something that mimics the movement pattern of the compound lift explosively. So if I'm doing a bench press, I might do a plyo push-up or a clap push-up or a med ball chest throw or a bent over med ball chest throw. The point is I'm being explosive in this horizontal pressing range of motion, this movement pattern. If I'm doing a squat, I might do box squats or box jumps because I'm jumping up from a squat pattern. I might just do dumbbell squat jumps. If I'm doing a deadlift, I might do a broad jump, so it's more of a hip hinge. If I am doing an overhead press, I might do wall throws or even an antagonist, which would be an overhead slam, but still working in that vertical plane. And the whole point here is to just amp up our nervous system, stimulate our nervous system, and then move forward into our strength movement, which is next. Strength. This is where we place our compound lift, our metric-based movement that we are recording and trying to progress over time. Progressive overload is one of the biggest keys to both strength and hypertrophy. So it's important that we have a main movement that we're not changing too often, that we're trying to get better in. For here, it's the bench press. For here, it's the box squat. The point is it's the compound lift, bench, squat, deadlift, overhead press. You can throw in a bent row too if you want. And the goal is I am going to progress over time. Now, some of you might be watching and say, you know, I can't back squat. I have low back issues, so on and so forth. Cool. Do a split squat. Do a Bulgarian split squat. Can't do a deadlift. Do a staggered RDL. Do a hip thrust. The point is you have a big, heavy lift that you are trying to get stronger in either every 1 week or 2 weeks. So on at least a bi-weekly basis, you are adding load to that and getting stronger at it and performing better over time. After we finish the strength movement, we're going to our accessory work, which is going to be presses, chin-ups, T-bar rows, RDLs, split squats, weighted planks. Accessory is a supplemental exercise. The point of it is to help us boost this barbell bench press, this squat, this deadlift, the overhead press. An accessory exercise is a supplement to the compound lift that we are trying to progress over time. So you can look at this one of two ways. We can program our accessory lifts based on our weak points during a strength movement if our goal is strength, or we can program our accessory movements based on where we need to build more muscle, whether that is for more strength or it's just because your goals are aesthetic. You want to be physically bigger, which in my case, that's my main goal. So my accessory work is less focused on getting a stronger bench, even though I do like getting stronger in the bench, and it's more focused on building the muscle groups I need work building. So that's our accessory phase, and at the very end, we're gonna throw in metabolic work. Metabolic work can be looked at two ways. Metabolic work could be something like this, like a sled pull or a push or an assault bike, where we're doing more metabolic conditioning, so aerobic work, anaerobic work as well, but anything that is going to be more cardio-based. Or we can look at it as very high rep, tension accumulation, and just trying to really create a lot of metabolic damage in the muscle, or metabolite accumulation, which is gonna be like this, an AMRAP, 10 minutes, 10 curls, 10 pushdowns, 10 lateral raises, getting a pump, going a little bit lighter, and just doing as many reps in that 10-minute period as you possibly can. And the reason we sequence things this way is to prevent injury, to perform at our best, and to save our energy along the way. What we don't want to do is perform our accessory work before our strength movement, because now we are creating fatigue before we have to perform a movement that is not only more dangerous and more likely to cause injury, bench, squat, deadlift, but also takes more mental focus and physical energy to perform. So what we want to do is just get ready for that, and then we want to put our focus on that first, then we can move to the accessory work, which comes next because it's most important. And then last but not least, it's the metabolic work, which it's just a grind. You don't have to think too hard to do 10 curls, 10 pushdowns, and 10 lateral raises, but it is draining, it's metabolically fatiguing, and you just gotta get through the grind. So we always want to start with this format. Now we can move into the weekly format, the weekly periodization. What I typically like to do with an upper-lower split is focus less on block periodization, where every block has a focus, which would be every day of my week looks like this: low rep, heavy strength. I'm just trying to get stronger, and I do that week after week after week until I move into the next phase, which might be a peaking phase where I'm trying to max out, and then I might move to an accumulation phase, which is going to be a higher volume. So I'm doing higher reps, more bodybuilding style work, and then I move back to the intensification. So every few months we're changing back to another phase, but what I like to do is more of an undulated periodization, a daily undulated periodization, which basically is similar to the conjugate method. It's similar to a concurrent training model, but what that means is I am going to train both the low rep range and the high rep range for every muscle group every single week, which is why I like having a max effort and a dynamic effort day. So that means one day is max effort. It doesn't mean you're literally doing a 1-rep max. It means that you are pushing your strength to the higher percentages of your 1-rep max. It means you are going above 70% and you're hitting 80%, 85%, 90%. You're doing 3 reps, 5 reps. Some of your accessory work is even 6 reps. So we are staying lower, almost always below 10, and primarily trying to focus on strength. Then we have a dynamic effort day, which is where we would normally do speed work. If we look at classic powerlifting, conjugate method periodization, this is where we do dynamic works like speed bench, speed deadlift, speed box squat, plyo jumps, things like that, some unilateral work. What I like to do with people, because most of the people that come to us, they do want to perform better, but they mainly want to look better. We're going to use this dynamic day to do a little bit of speed work because, again, that central nervous system development is very important for both muscle growth, strength, and longevity. But we're going to take the rest of the day to work on hypertrophy and use it as an extra bodybuilding day, which is sometimes this is interchangeable, and you can call it an RE day, a repetition effort day, because I'm trying to exceed repetition and do a lot of volume on that day. But either way, the main take home, the simple point of that is you have one lower volume, higher intensity day and one higher volume, lower intensity day. So I use less weight on that day, but higher reps, more volume, more tension. And I use more weight with lower reps, less tension, because I'm not exceeding a certain duration of time during that lift, time under tension. Now, how do you split it up between the two? What should you do? This is a very 50-50 blend, as you can see. Like, there's strength work, there's speed work, there's hypertrophy work. Typically what I recommend is picking 2 things and splitting the ratio 2/3 across the board. So if your goal is mainly strength, then 2/3 of your total work should be in that strength range. It should be strength specific. So power, speed, strength development, low reps, very little high rep, high volume work, because only 1/3 of your training should be given to that hypertrophy bodybuilding work, because that's not your main goal. Where if you're on the other spectrum, like myself, if hypertrophy and muscle growth and aesthetics are the main focus, then 2/3 of your total volume should be geared more towards hypertrophy. So a lot of my training might start with that low rep compound, but then I usually don't go below 8 reps. Why? Because I want more volume accumulated, and I want to spend more time doing higher volumes and really make the most out of my time in the gym to build as much muscle as possible, because that's my main goal. If you are somebody like one of my WWE wrestlers who have kind of 3 goals. I need to perform really well, I like lifting really heavy, and I want to look really good. Oh, and let's add that they want longevity, joint health, and all these other things in their program as well. For those individuals, it's like a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 blend. We do a lot of speed and power work, we do a lot of strength work, and we also do a lot of bodybuilding accessory work. And I kind of blend it all together in a 4 to 5 day split per week, because those individuals get paid on the idea of being able to look the part and perform the way they need to and lasting years and years in the sport. So for somebody like that, or yourself, if you're somebody who wants to perform well, feel good, and look good too, and look like an athlete, you might want to split it up 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. 1/3 power and speed, 1/3 strength, and 1/3 bodybuilding. Now, we're going to alternate in wave intensities throughout the week. So as you can see, I put day 1 max effort, day 2 dynamic effort. And the reason for that is if we have 2 max effort days back to back, Monday, Tuesday, you are just draining your nervous system. You are really pushing your tank a little bit too far. And in my experience, this is going to generate more fatigue and more likelihood of injury. I would much rather go max effort, dynamic effort, max effort, dynamic effort. And in the case of an upper-lower split, it would actually be max effort, dynamic, dynamic, max effort. So this might be Monday, Tuesday, and then you have a dynamic day on Thursday and a max effort on Friday. You take 2 days off to just do cardio or recovery, and you're back to max effort. But the whole point is here, and this is stolen straight from Westside Conjugate, is you're going to have at least 48 hours, if not more, before you do your next max effort day. So you're not just draining on it too much. And it's not that you can't do 2 max effort days in a row, but the big key here is that we want to avoid injury at all costs. And the more fatigued you get, the harder your training is, and the further you push your nervous system towards that capacity that it has, the more likely you are to have your form break down and you get injured in the gym. And we don't want that, because now you can't train for your goal if you're injured. So we're going to wave the intensities back and forth. And I would also suggest doing this with cardio as well. So if you're doing some conditioning in here too, I would alternate those intensities as well. Low intensity cardio, high intensity, moderate, and kind of shift between these. So you're wave loading your intensities throughout the week to optimize recovery and use multiple energy systems throughout the week. Now, start with intensity, finish with volume. This is a daily mantra I have. You don't need to do it this way, but in most cases, we want to start with lower reps, higher intensity. So more intensity being load. So when I say higher intensity, I mean higher loads, lower volumes. And then towards the end of it, we're going to increase volume and decrease load. The reason for that is because as fatigue increases, it's harder for us to lift super heavy. We have less energy, but we can crank out some of this accessory work with higher volume. So a good thing to think of on a daily session or a weekly session is to start with intensity, finish with volume. And as you can see, these last 2 things these are our sample days. So what we have here is some activation. We got some face pulls and plyo push-ups, barbell bench press for our compound, half kneeling landmine press, superset with a chin up, T-bar row with a posterior fly, and then an AMRAP at the end. So we're hitting most muscle groups in the entire upper body, and then a dynamic effort might be like a speed bench, and then I'm gonna go higher reps on all of this. So we're working some power in the beginning, and then we are going to finish with higher volume bodybuilding. And the same exact concept applies to the lower body, and this is an example of a dynamic effort day. We have leg curls and side planks to prepare, box jumps to prime, box squats for our strength or speed or power development work, and then hypertrophy work for RDLs, split squats, weighted planks, things like that. And remember, if your main goal is hypertrophy, you might go with a box squat for 5 sets of 5 for your strength, and then this might be lying leg curls and leg extensions, and then a leg press and high volume machine work, because your main goal is high volume bodybuilding. Your goal is hypertrophy. But as a whole, what I wanted to do here is show you really what the principles of creating a upper-lower split are. You should be focusing on these things, and then 2 example days of what those actually look like. And at the end of the day, remember that you can kind of plug and play with this, but the most important principles that you need to follow when programming is kind of the order of operations, the sequencing of these exercises, because exercises are exercises. You can plug and play and you can change variations between the equipment you're using or the variation of the exercise in general. So maybe you do a single leg extension instead of a bilateral leg extension. Maybe you do a split squat instead of a reverse lunge, or you do a hammer curl instead of a supinated curl. That stuff is where we just kind of plug and play over the course of weeks. But the main point here is movement patterns and structured principles inside that upper-lower split.